The email was stark white against the dark screen. Deferred admission. I closed my eyes, the cold knot in my stomach tightening. For 6 years, the image of that 20,000 savings account. My hard-earned money from bussing tables, stocking shelves, and tutoring had been my silent promise. It was my key out of this house, this stifling environment where my needs always came second to Chloe, my beautiful chaotic older sister. That money wasn't just tuition, it was independence. I found my mother in the kitchen, casually scrolling on her tablet. "Mom," I started, trying to keep my voice even. "The college wire transfer failed. I just checked the account. The 20,000 is gone. Completely." She didn't look up immediately. Her silence, a long, drawn-out beat, was more jarring than any shout. When her eyes finally met mine, they held a familiar, worn-out pity, the same look she gave stray animals. "Oh, honey, about that," she sighed, adjusting her apron. "Chloe needed a little help." "Help? What kind of help?" I heard the sharpness in my voice, the frantic edge of disbelief. I pictured Chloe, who was currently sunbathing on a beach in the Caribbean, judging by her recent Instagram story. Did she have an emergency? Is she hurt? No. Nothing like that, Mom admitted, finally putting the tablet down. She needed a fresh start. You know, that vintage Mustang she bought. It broke down again, and she just needed a little seed money to help her find herself for a few months. She was getting so stressed here. The words hit me like a physical blow. Stressed. While I was working double shifts and skipping every school event to build a future, Chloe was stressed by the sheer effort of existing. "So you took my college fund. You signed the paperwork to let her drain the account we opened for my education." My mother's face hardened, shifting from pity to defensiveness, the ultimate defense of the enabler. "It's family money, Lucas. It's not yours in some separate little vault. She's your sister. She needed it more right now. You're responsible, you'll figure it out. You'll be fine." That last line, "you'll be fine," was the cruelest dismissal, turning my reliability into a weapon used against me. It meant my hard work counted for nothing because they knew I would always land on my feet, allowing them to sacrifice me without consequence. I stumbled back, leaning against the cold countertop, my breath catching in my throat. I didn't cry. I was too stunned, too furious. I felt a visceral shift, like a piece of my heart had calcified. It wasn't just the money, it was the absolute, casual betrayal. The realization that my parents didn't see me as an individual with goals, but as a perpetual safety net for their golden child. I looked at my mother, who was already turning back to her tablet, the conflict dismissed. In that instant, standing in the bright, familiar kitchen, I knew two things with chilling clarity. My college dream was deferred, and this debt, this profound injustice, would not be repaid with a simple "I owe you." It would be repaid with a cold, precise, and utterly unexpected form of justice, and it would start the moment I walked out that door. The innocent boy who trusted his family was gone. The next 3 days were a blur of cold silence and quiet packing. I told my mother I was moving into the dorm early to find a part-time job near campus, a lie that didn't even register as a question in her eyes. The truth was, I had rented the cheapest room I could find, miles away, and was already applying for graveyard shifts, but before I left for good, I needed proof. I needed confirmation that my mother's help was nothing but the funding of Chloe's self-indulgence. I sat at the family desktop in the den, heart hammering against my ribs, navigating through the tangled web of my sister's digital life. She was always careless, assuming her golden status protect her from real consequences. Sure enough, her financial paper trail wasn't hard to find. I accessed the joint bank statements, the ones Mom always forgot to print, and the full, ugly truth stared back at me. A single, massive withdrawal, labeled cryptically as family expense, followed 2 days later by deposits to a high-end Bahamas resort and the down payment on a flashy 2024 Mustang. I printed everything, not just the bank statements, but the resort confirmation showing Chloe's name and the dealership receipt. The most damning evidence, however, came from her own hand. I logged into her seldom used personal email and found the single exchange that turned my anger into a solid, impenetrable resolve. It was a reply to my mother, sent right after the funds were withdrawn. "Thanks, Mom. Tell Lucas to stop being so dramatic. Honestly, it's not like he was going to use it for anything fun." I slumped back in the leather chair, the glow of the monitor illuminating the hot, sick wave of humiliation that washed over me. It wasn't just the money, it was the utter contempt in her words. She hadn't just taken my future, she had mocked my very existence. Labeling my goals and hard work as not fun, she had stripped my sacrifices of their dignity. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place when I checked her Instagram again. A new post, Chloe, laughing cocktail in hand, standing next to the Mustang. The caption read, "New car, who dis? Needed a little retail therapy after all that stress. Living my best life, blessed." I took a picture of that post with my phone, matching it with the printed proof scattered on the desk. This was no misunderstanding, no emergency. This was theft backed by arrogance. The shock wasn't that she did it, the turning point was the realization that she felt absolutely zero remorse. They had dismissed me and called it family. I bundled the papers, slid them into a discreet manila envelope, and walked out the door. My immediate future was ruined, but my long-term purpose had just been forged in the cold fire of betrayal. I knew exactly what I needed to do next. The evidence. The bank statements, the dealer receipts, the resort booking, and Chloe's damning email was locked securely in a post office box miles away. My immediate future was a factory floor and community college classes, but I wouldn't be doing it alone. My first step of revenge wasn't loud, it was legal. I took a personal day off from my brutal new night job, put on my best interview clothes, and met with an attorney specializing in financial fraud. He listened, silent and sharp, as I laid out the proof of the unauthorized withdrawal from the joint account. The lawyer, a man named Mr. Harrington, raised an eyebrow when I revealed the relationship. "You understand that pursuing this legally against your sister means you are prosecuting your family." They stopped being my family the moment they called my $20,000 a donation to a beach vacation. I replied, the phrase leaving my mouth with a shocking lack of emotion. I didn't want the money back yet, I wanted accountability. I wanted the threat of real-world consequences hanging over Chloe's head. My goal was a civil suit for theft and fraudulent conversion, not a criminal one. I wanted to tie up her assets, ruin her credit, and make the Mustang a liability, not an escape. Mr. Harrington agreed to take the case on contingency, captivated by the cold, clear evidence and my resolve. The legal filing would be my silent weapon, a clock ticking toward a massive, public explosion. 2 weeks later, the writ of summons was served. It happened during a fancy brunch my parents threw for Chloe to celebrate her return from her extended break. I wasn't there, of course, but the fallout was immediate. My mother called, her voice wavering between fury and panic. "Lucas, what is this paper? Chloe is hysterical. You're suing her. For what? A simple loan. You can't do this to your own sister." I finally spoke to my mother after weeks of stone-cold silence. My voice was low, measured, and utterly devoid of warmth. "It wasn't a loan, Mom. It was theft. She stole my college education. And no, it wasn't a simple thing. She called my hard work not fun. She took the money, and you covered it up." My mother resorted to the ultimate emotional blackmail. "Your father is furious. He's talking about disowning you. You're destroying this family." The confrontation I had imagined, yelling, screaming, demanding justice, didn't happen. I didn't need it. The true, satisfying turning point was simply saying, "You destroyed the family the day you decided her car was worth more than my future. The lawyer will be in touch." I hung up the phone before she could say another word. I felt a surge of vindication and release. The revenge wasn't about the money anymore. It was about forcing them to finally acknowledge the reality of their betrayal. Now, the legal gears were grinding, and the only thing left to wait for was the dramatic, unavoidable moment of public humiliation that my sister truly deserved. The legal threat from the civil suit created a cold, hostile stalemate for 6 agonizing months. Chloe tried everything, ignoring the summons, calling my lawyer a joke, and even attempting to intimidate me at my new job. But the law was relentless. The lawsuit was moving to the discovery phase, threatening to expose every detail of the transaction, and my parents' complicity. To a judge. My parents, desperate to avoid the shame of a courtroom battle, scheduled a last-ditch meeting at a high-end restaurant, claiming it was a chance to resolve things like a family. I knew it was a trap, a public arena where they intended to pressure me with emotional arguments and veiled threats. I agreed, but I didn't go unprepared. The atmosphere was instantly toxic. My father launched into a furious tirade the moment I sat down. "You have crossed a line, Lucas. This lawsuit is an embarrassment. You want to talk about injustice? How about the injustice of ruining your sister's life over a measly $20,000? It wasn't measly, Dad. I stated, my voice cutting through the restaurant chatter. It was my future. And it wasn't alone, it was stolen. Chloe, predictably, played the victim. She smirked and leaned forward. Oh, stop it with the victim act. You didn't even use the money yet. You could have just asked for it back later. You're just jealous of my car and my freedom. The real reason you're doing this is because you're a failure who couldn't handle college anyway. That was the turning point. The precise, vicious quote I had been waiting for. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I simply reached into my briefcase, pulled out the manila envelope, and slid a single sheet of paper across the table. It wasn't the lawsuit. It was an official notice of lien placed on her Mustang. Actually, Chloe, I said, a dangerous calmness in my voice. Thanks to the initial court filing, the judge deemed your assets a potential flight risk. That car you're so proud of. It now has a lion. You can't sell it, you can't register it, and if you miss the next payment, the finance company will repossess it on my behalf because the court acknowledged the funds used for the down payment were illegally obtained. Chloe's face went white. She snatched the paper, her eyes scanning the legal jargon, realizing the cold finality of the process. You can't! Mom! Dad! Stop him! My mother, horrified by the imminent public collapse, pleaded with me. Lucas, please, you've made your point. Let's just drop the suit. We'll give you the $20,000 back. Too late, I said, rising slowly from the table. The cost of my education went up. It's no longer just the money, it's the interest, legal fees, and the 6 months of lost wages I accrued working overtime while she was sunbathing. The court is now seeking a full $35,000 settlement against Chloe, specifically. And when she can't pay it, the court will begin to freeze the joint family accounts to cover the debt. My father shot up, knocking his chair back. You snake! You calculated this! We'll be ruined. No, I corrected, looking him straight in the eye. Chloe's financial instability will ruin you, just as it always has. Only this time I won't be the one paying for it. I walked out, leaving them in the decimated silence of the expensive restaurant. The consequences were no longer theoretical, they were financial, legal, and deeply humiliating. The sweet satisfaction was watching their golden cage finally start to crumble, but the ultimate revenge still lay ahead. The legal fallout was swift and devastating. My parents, panicking about the frozen joint accounts, finally scraped together the original $20,000 and transferred it to my lawyer, begging me to withdraw the suit. But I didn't want a refund. I wanted the full $35,000 the court mandated, and I wanted Chloe be the one to pay the price. Chloe, facing a ruined credit score and the loss of her beloved Mustang, was forced to call me. She had moved back into my parents' house, her extravagant life shattered. Her voice on the phone was a thin, desperate whine. Gone was the confident, mocking tone. Lucas, please, I'm begging you. This is destroying me. I can't get a job with this lawsuit hanging over me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll never call you a failure again. Just take the money and drop the charges. This was the moment of ultimate closure, the final vindication. She was forced to eat every cruel word she had ever uttered. But my own anger had cooled into a focused self-respect. Her apology was worthless because it was motivated by fear, not true remorse. Keep the apology, Chloe, I said, my voice steady. It doesn't pay my lawyer. The court ordered you to pay the full settlement for the theft, interest, and my lost wages. I already have their $20,000 principal. You owe the remaining $15,000 directly to the court. The land stays on your car until that debt is settled. I wasn't cruel, I was simply upholding the law they forced me to invoke. I finished the call, knowing she would now be solely responsible for navigating the financial ruin she created. 3 months later, I accepted a place at a prestigious university in a different state, the tuition fully covered by my meticulous savings, and the settlement, which Chloe eventually had to beg a relative for. I was starting my life over, free from the drama and the suffocating favoritism. My final act wasn't revenge, it was total abandonment of their broken dynamic. I sent a simple text to my parents on the day I left. I used the money wisely. I am well. I hope Chloe figures out how to pay her debts. You're right, I'll be fine. Goodbye. I blocked them all. As I drove away, my old life shrinking in the rearview mirror, I didn't feel rage or sadness. I felt a profound sense of empowerment. They had tried to destroy my future, but they only succeeded in giving me the motivation to build one entirely on my own terms. The ultimate justice wasn't their downfall, but my unconditional freedom and success.